90% of this country is trying to kill you. Deserts where the ground reaches 70.7 degrees Celsius. Mountains that cut off entire regions for months. Water so scarce that civilizations had to dig beneath the earth just to survive. And yet, this land built empires, created poetry that still shapes language today, and sustained millions of people for thousands of years. How? Because this is not just a country. This is Iran. Not the headlines, but the land itself, a natural fortress of mountains and deserts, a crossroads of empires, and a society where cutting-edge technology exists alongside ancient rituals and timeless poetry. But what really holds this country together across thousands of years? Iran sits at one of the most strategic crossroads on Earth, where the Middle East, Central Asia, and South Asia meet. To the north lies the vast Caspian Sea. To the south, the waters of the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman open toward global trade routes. On a map, it appears like a bridge. An open passage connecting civilizations, ideas, and commerce. But step onto the land itself, and that illusion fades. Because Iran does not feel like a bridge, it feels like a fortress. Not one built by walls or armies, but by the earth itself. To the west and southwest, the Zagros Mountains rise in long folded ridges stretching across the landscape. These mountains form a natural barrier between the Iranian plateau and the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, shaping not just borders, but the movement of people, goods, and armies for thousands of years. Crossing them is possible, but never easy. To the north, another barrier stands. The Alborz Range, steep and imposing, forms a wall between the interior plateau and the narrow, fertile strip along the Caspian coast. Towering above it is Mount Damavand, a dormant volcano rising more than 5,600 meters into the sky. Snow-covered for much of the year, it dominates the skyline and has long stood as both a physical and cultural landmark. These mountains do more than define geography. They shape destiny. What happens to a country when its heart is locked behind mountains and deserts? Does it become isolated or protected? Between these towering ranges lies the Central Plateau, a vast expanse of elevated basins sitting roughly 900 meters above sea level. It is here that the true challenge begins. Rainfall is scarce, rivers are unreliable, many flow only briefly before vanishing into salt lakes or evaporating under the relentless sun. And to the east, the environment becomes even more extreme. The land gives way to two of Asia's harshest deserts, the Dasht-e-Kavir and the Dasht-e-Lut. These are not ordinary deserts. This is where satellite data recorded 70.7 degrees Celsius, 159 degrees Fahrenheit, one of the highest surface temperatures ever measured on Earth. No water, no agriculture, almost no life. This is why nearly 90% of Iran is arid or semi-arid. In the Kavir, vast salt flats stretch across the horizon, their surfaces hardened and cracked, concealing treacherous mud beneath. In the Lut, wind has carved the terrain into vast ridges and corridors, and satellite measurements have recorded some of the highest surface temperatures ever observed on Earth. Why are these deserts almost completely uninhabited? Because here, water is nearly absent. Without water, there is no agriculture. Without agriculture, there is no permanent settlement. Vegetation struggles to survive. Life itself becomes uncertain. This is why so much of Iran is considered uninhabitable. Salt flats, shifting dunes, and scorching rock fields dominate enormous regions, creating landscapes where survival is not just difficult. It is often impossible, and yet, people did not abandon this land. They adapted to it. They learned to read the terrain like a living system, to follow snowmelt from distant mountains, to locate underground aquifers hidden beneath the surface, to move along natural corridors carved by time and erosion. Instead of resisting the land, they worked with it. And slowly, pockets of life began to emerge. Along the Caspian coast, where moisture from the sea nourishes dense forests. In fertile valleys along the Zagros, where rivers and seasonal rains support agriculture. And across the plateau itself, where carefully managed water sources sustain cities in the middle of otherwise unforgiving terrain. Today, most of Iran's population lives within these limited zones. Only a small portion of the land supports the majority of the people, but those spaces became something far greater than habitable land. They became centers of civilization, places where ideas formed, cultures evolved, and history took shape. So if you were placed in a land like this, would you try to conquer the mountains? Or would you learn to follow the one force that makes all life possible? Water. Because in Iran, survival has never been about overpowering nature. It has always been about understanding it. Long before the word Iran existed, this land was already alive with movement, conflict, and creation. Across the plateau, early societies emerged. Some rooted in fertile lowlands, others scattered across highland valleys shaped by isolation. Among the earliest were the Elamites, whose cities rose in the southwest, forming one of the region's first organized civilizations. They built, traded, fought, and adapted to a land that never made survival easy. But this was not a unified world. It was a mosaic. Tribes, city-states, and regional powers existed side by side. Connected by trade routes, but also divided by geography and rivalry. Mountains separated communities, deserts limited expansion. Power shifted constantly, never settling for long. That began to change in the 7th century BCE. A people known as the Medes began to unify much of the Iranian plateau, forming one of the earliest Iranian empires. They brought together regions that had long existed in fragmentation, creating a political foundation that would soon be transformed into something far greater. Because from within this landscape, shaped by hardship and distance, emerged a force that would redefine the scale of power itself. Under Cyrus the Great, the Achaemenid Empire rose, and it did not rise slowly. It expanded across continents. From the Aegean Sea in the west to the Indus Valley in the east, it became one of the largest empires the world had ever seen. Dozens of peoples, languages, and cultures fell under its rule. But unlike many empires that followed, it did not seek to erase them. It organized them. It allowed diversity to exist within a larger system. And that raises a question that still feels almost impossible today. How did an empire born in such a harsh and fragmented landscape manage to govern lands thousands of kilometers away? Without telephones, trains, or the internet? Part of the answer lies in the land itself. Geography was not an obstacle. It was a guide. Mountain corridors became the routes of royal roads. Deserts acted as natural frontiers, limiting threats and defining boundaries. Strategic passes could be monitored, controlled, and defended. But geography alone could not hold an empire together. The Achaemenids built systems. They introduced standardized coinage, allowing trade to function across vast distances. They developed written administrative records, ensuring consistency and communication. They created an imperial structure that often allowed local customs, laws, and religions to continue. So long as they remained within the framework of the empire, it was not uniformity that sustained power. It was balance. And nowhere was this vision more clearly expressed than in Persepolis. Persepolis was not simply a political center, it was a statement in stone. A ceremonial capital where the empire presented itself to the world. Not through conquest, but through symbolism. Its massive staircases and walls were carved with detailed reliefs showing delegations from across the empire. Each bringing gifts, each dressed in their own traditional clothing, each representing a different region. They are not shown as defeated, they are shown as participants, as part of something larger. Nearby, Pasargadae, the resting place of Cyrus, anchors the origins of this vision, reminding us that empires are not only built with armies, but with ideas. Today, these sites stand as UNESCO World Heritage landmarks. Their structures are broken, their surfaces worn by time, but what they represent has not disappeared. Because the idea that emerged here, that a vast, multi-ethnic society could be governed through systems, tolerance, and structure, has echoed far beyond its era. So when you imagine yourself standing among those ancient columns, looking out across the ruins, are you witnessing the remains of something lost? Or are you standing inside the blueprint of a world that still shapes how power, governance, and civilization function today? Because in this land, even the ruins are not silent. They are foundations. Over centuries, the land we now call Iran did not remain unchanged. Empires rose, expanded, and disappeared, each leaving behind traces of power, belief, and culture. The Parthians shaped early imperial traditions, followed by the Sasanians, who built one of the most organized states of the ancient world. Then came the Arab conquests, introducing Islam and gradually transforming the religious and cultural fabric of the region. After that, Turkic dynasties and Mongol invasions added new layers, reshaping cities, governance, and artistic expression. Each era changed Iran in visible ways, but none fully erased what came before. Instead, identity continued to evolve, absorbing influence while holding on to deeper cultural roots. And then, in the early modern period, a decisive shift occurred. The rise of the Safavid dynasty. Beginning in 1501, the Safavids reunited Iran as a centralized state after centuries of fragmentation. But their most important decision was not just political control. It was religious definition. They declared 12 Islam as the official religion of the realm, shaping the country's identity in a way that still echoes today. What happens when a ruling power does more than govern territory and instead defines the belief system of an entire society? The result is long-lasting. Religion became more than personal faith. It became a shared identity. It distinguished Iran from its neighbors and created a sense of unity that extended beyond language or ethnicity. Over time, this decision influenced politics, culture, and the way people understood their place in the world. But this transformation was not only written in doctrine or law, it was built into the cities themselves. Nowhere is this more visible than in Isfahan. Under Safavid rule, Isfahan was transformed into a capital designed to reflect power, faith, and cultural confidence. The city was not expanded randomly. It was carefully planned to express a unified vision of society. At its center stands Naqsh-e-Jahan Square, one of the largest public squares ever constructed. Surrounding it are grand mosques, a royal palace, and bustling bazaars, all arranged in a way that connects religion, governance, and daily life. This was more than urban design. It was a statement. In modern cities, we build structures based on efficiency. Offices, shopping centers, transportation hubs. But in Safavid Isfahan, the most important space brought together spiritual devotion, political authority, and commerce into a single shared environment. What does that say about what society valued most? It suggests that identity was not divided into separate spheres. Instead, it was integrated into a cohesive whole where belief, power, and everyday life existed side by side. At the same time, the Safavid era saw a flourishing of artistic traditions. Persian miniature painting reached new levels of detail and storytelling. Carpet weaving became more refined, producing intricate designs that carried regional and symbolic meaning. Calligraphy transformed written language into visual expression, blending precision with beauty. These were not just cultural practices. They became exports, carried across trade routes, admired in distant courts. Through art, Iran projected its identity beyond its borders, influencing cultures far beyond its own territory. And through all of this, something deeper was taking shape. A sense of continuity. A connection between past and present. Because even as dynasties changed and power shifted, the foundations of identity remained. Adapted, redefined, but never completely lost. From this point forward, Iran was no longer just a land shaped by geography or empire. It became a civilization shaped by belief, expression, and a shared sense of who it was, and who it would continue to be. Today, Iran holds one of the richest concentrations of UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world, with more than 24 locations recognized for their cultural and natural significance. These sites are not isolated monuments. Together they form something much larger. A living map of history, stretching from prehistoric settlements to thriving cities and vast natural landscapes. If a country's identity could be written as a map of World Heritage Sites, what story would Iran's map tell? it would tell a story of continuity. In the south, the ruins of Persepolis and Pasargadae stand as reminders of imperial ambition and administrative brilliance. Their broken columns and carved stone reliefs still carry the memory of a time when this land governed vast territories across continents. But Iran's heritage is not only about power, it is also about adaptation. In central Iran, the historic city of Yazd reveals how people learned to live with extreme heat long before modern technology existed. Buildings made of earth blend into the landscape, narrow alleys create shade, and tall wind catchers, known as badgirs, capture even the faintest breeze and direct it into homes, cooling interiors naturally. Here, survival was not forced. It was designed, and beneath the surface lies one of the most remarkable systems ever created in response to scarcity. The Qanat. These underground channels stretch for kilometers, gently sloping from mountain aquifers to towns and fields, transporting water without pumps or engines. Built and maintained by generations, they transformed dry regions into reliable sources of life. Today, there are still over 30,000 active qanats across Iran. In an age of dams and mega projects, what can a 2,000-year-old underground water tunnel teach us about sustainable engineering? Perhaps that simplicity, when aligned with nature, can outlast even the most advanced technologies. Water in Iran has never been just a resource. It has been the foundation of civilization, and nowhere is that relationship more beautifully expressed than in the Persian garden. Designed with geometric precision, these gardens create a sense of balance and harmony, combining flowing water, shade, and carefully arranged vegetation. They were not only places of rest, but symbolic representations of paradise, controlled environments where nature and human intention exist in perfect alignment. This idea traveled far beyond Iran, influencing garden design from South Asia to Europe, quietly exporting a vision of order, beauty, and tranquility. But Iran's heritage is not only cultivated, it is also raw. At the opposite extreme lies the Dasht-e Lut, one of the country's natural world heritage sites. Here, the land appears almost alien. Towering ridges of rock and sand stretch across the horizon, sculpted by wind over thousands of years. Surface temperatures reach extremes rarely seen anywhere else on Earth. Life is scarce, but the landscape itself becomes the subject. A natural artwork shaped by time, heat, and erosion. And then, in complete contrast, the north tells a different story. Along the southern edge of the Caspian Sea lie the Hyrcanian forests, dense woodlands that have existed for tens of millions of years. These forests are remnants of ancient ecosystems, home to a remarkable diversity of plant and animal life, lush, green, almost untouched. They stand in sharp contrast to the deserts and highlands, just hours away. How many countries on Earth can claim, within a single day's journey, both one of the hottest deserts on the planet and forests older than many mountain ranges? This is the paradox of Iran, a land where extremes do not cancel each other out. They coexist. And through that coexistence, they tell a deeper story. That identity is not built from one environment, one culture, or one moment in history. It is built from layers: stone, water, and green, harshness and beauty, survival and creation, all existing together. within a single land. The cities of Iran are not simply places where people live. They are living chapters in a cultural narrative that has unfolded over thousands of years, where streets, buildings, and traditions carry forward the memory of entire civilizations rather than just serving the needs of the present. Among them, Shiraz stands as a bridge between past and present, a place long associated with poetry, gardens, and intellectual life, where the works of poets like Hafez and Sa'adi are not confined to bookshelves or classrooms, but remain woven into everyday conversations, rituals, and moments of reflection, shaping how people think, speak, and even make decisions. In how many countries do people still open a book of poetry at random, searching for meaning, guidance, or reassurance in the middle of ordinary life, treating verses written centuries ago as something alive rather than something preserved? This connection between literature and daily existence gives Shiraz a unique atmosphere, where cultural memory is not distant or abstract, but immediate and personal, expressed through language, tradition, and the quiet continuity of shared references. Further north, Isfahan presents a different kind of cultural expression, one written not in words, but in architecture, where mosque domes covered in intricate turquoise tiles reflect sunlight in shifting patterns. Bridges extend gracefully across the Zayande River, and the historic square continues to function as a gathering space where families, traders, and performers share the same environment, just as they have for centuries. Travelers who once passed through Isfahan often described it as half the world, not as an exaggeration, but as an attempt to capture the density of experience within the city, where art, commerce, religion, and social life intersected in ways that made it feel larger than its physical boundaries. In this setting, the city becomes more than a collection of buildings. It becomes a system of interaction, where space itself is designed to bring people together, and where the rhythm of life reflects centuries of continuity rather than constant reinvention. To the northwest, Tabriz reveals another dimension of Iran's urban story, one shaped by trade, movement, and exchange, centered around the historic Bazaar of Tabriz, a vast covered network of corridors and halls that has functioned for centuries as one of the most important commercial hubs in the region. Here, merchants from Central Asia, the Caucasus, Anatolia, and beyond once gathered to exchange goods, ideas, and stories, turning the city into a vital node along the Silk Road, where economic activity was inseparable from cultural interaction, and where the flow of trade also meant the flow of influence. Walking through such a space today, surrounded by architecture that has endured across generations, the experience feels less like participating in a modern marketplace and more like stepping into a continuum that stretches far beyond the present moment. When you walk through a bazaar that has been active for centuries, are you simply shopping, or are you moving through layers of history that still exist around you? Across these cities, Shiraz with its poetry, Isfahan with its architecture, and Tabriz with its commerce, a pattern begins to emerge, revealing that urban life in Iran has never been defined by a single function, but by the integration of culture, economy, and identity into spaces that continue to evolve while remaining deeply connected to their origins. These cities do not just preserve history, they carry it forward, and in doing so, they transform everyday life into something that is constantly shaped by the past, even as it moves toward the future. Beyond the monumental ruins and grand cities, the cultural identity of Iran lives most vividly in everyday life, unfolding not in palaces or public squares, but inside homes, workshops, and the quiet rhythms of daily routines that have been shaped over centuries. Among the most recognizable expressions of this living tradition are Persian carpets, carefully woven by hand through a process that can take months or even years, where every knot, color, and pattern reflects a deeper connection to place, memory, and identity. These carpets are not simply decorative objects. They carry layers of meaning, often encoding local landscapes, tribal symbols, and cultural stories that have been passed down through generations. They serve a dual purpose, functioning both as practical items used in everyday life and as portable works of art that have traveled far beyond Iran's borders, admired and collected across the world, while still remaining deeply rooted in the communities that produce them. If you could read a carpet like a book, what stories would its patterns tell about the place it was woven? This idea that meaning can be embedded in everyday objects extends far beyond textiles and into the social fabric itself, where hospitality plays a central role in shaping relationships and community life. In Iran, welcoming a guest is not a casual gesture, but a deeply ingrained cultural expectation, one that reflects respect, generosity, and a sense of shared humanity. Visitors are often greeted with tea served in delicate glasses, accompanied by sweets or fruit, creating an atmosphere that encourages conversation and connection rather than formality or distance. Whether in rural villages or modern urban apartments, gatherings tend to center around low tables or carpets spread across the floor, where people sit together for hours, sharing stories, discussing ideas, and celebrating occasions both large and small. These moments are not separate from culture. They are culture. They represent a continuity of interaction that has remained remarkably consistent despite changes in technology, politics, and urban life. This continuity becomes even more visible during Nowruz, the Persian New Year, one of the oldest continuously celebrated festivals in the world, marking the arrival of spring and the renewal of life. Rooted in pre-Islamic traditions, Nowruz transcends religious and regional boundaries, bringing people together in a shared celebration that connects the present to a distant past. At the center of this celebration is the Haft Scene table, a carefully arranged display of 7 symbolic items, each beginning with the Persian letter S, representing concepts such as rebirth, health, patience, and prosperity. Every element has meaning, and every arrangement reflects both tradition and personal interpretation. What does it mean for a modern nation-state to celebrate a New Year festival that predates many of the world's major religions? It suggests that identity is not confined to recent history or political systems, but extends far deeper, rooted in practices that have survived conquest, transformation, and time itself. These traditions, whether woven into carpets, expressed through hospitality, or celebrated in seasonal rituals, reveal something essential about Iran. They show that culture here is not preserved in isolation. It is lived. It adapts, evolves, and responds to change, yet continues to anchor daily life in a sense of continuity that stretches back thousands of years. In Iran, tradition is not a relic of the past. It is a framework for the present. And through it, the past remains not distant, but present. So, which of these surprised you the most? The underground water systems, the desert temperatures, or the fact that millions still thrive here? Drop your answer in the comments, and if you enjoy deep cinematic stories like this, subscribe for more. To understand the modern face of Iran, the focus inevitably shifts to Tehran, a city that sits beneath the towering Alborz Mountains and carries within it the weight of both history and transformation. What is now a sprawling metropolis was once a modest settlement near the ancient city of Ray, a place of limited importance compared to older urban centers across the region. That changed in the late 18th century, when Tehran was chosen as the royal capital under the Qajar dynasty, setting in motion a process of growth that would gradually reshape it into the political and administrative heart of the country. Over time, that growth accelerated. What happens when a city that was a modest village just 250 years ago becomes the beating heart of a nation of more than 80 million people? The answer can be seen in the scale and complexity of Tehran today, where millions move through its streets each day, navigating a city that concentrates much of Iran's governance, economy, and intellectual life within a single urban space. In the 20th century, particularly under the Pahlavi rulers, Tehran underwent rapid modernization as wide boulevards replaced older streets, highways cut across expanding districts, and universities, factories, and government institutions began to redefine the skyline and the rhythm of daily life. This transformation was not only physical, but social, introducing new forms of education, industry, and urban culture that reshaped how people lived and interacted. Then came a turning point, the Iranian Revolution. After 1979, Tehran became the center of a new political system, one that redefined the relationship between religion, governance, and society, while the city itself continued to expand and modernize in parallel. This created a unique dynamic where tradition and transformation did not replace one another, but instead began to coexist in complex and sometimes conflicting ways. Today, Tehran stands as a hub of innovation as well as authority, home to major universities and research institutions that produce scientists, engineers, and thinkers, contributing to fields ranging from medicine to artificial intelligence. A growing startup ecosystem reflects a younger generation engaging with global technologies, while infrastructure such as the National Stock Exchange and an extensive metro network supports the functioning of a modern urban economy. At the same time, the city faces significant challenges. Air pollution often settles over the skyline. Traffic congestion slows the movement of millions. Socio-economic differences shape how different communities experience the city. And the effects of international sanctions influence everything from industry to daily life. Can a city remain true to its cultural roots while becoming a regional center for science, defense technology, and digital innovation? That question does not have a simple answer, but it becomes visible in the contrasts that define Tehran. In one neighborhood, traditional bazaars continue to operate much as they have for generations, while nearby, glass-covered office towers reflect a more contemporary vision of economic activity. Religious centers stand alongside modern commercial districts, and public spaces display a mixture of historical symbols, political messaging, and artistic expression. Walk through the city, and you see young people navigating digital platforms, engaging with global culture, and shaping new forms of identity, even as older traditions continue to influence family life, social expectations, and public behavior. These contrasts are not separate, they exist side by side. In Tehran, the relationship between modernity and tradition is not a settled balance, but an ongoing process, unfolding in everyday moments, in crowded streets, in university classrooms, and in quiet homes where generations negotiate what to preserve and what to change. It is here, more than anywhere else, that the future of Iran is being tested, not as a clear direction, but as a constant conversation. The landscape of Iran has always demanded resilience, shaped by aridity, heat, and the constant challenge of limited water. But today, those long-standing pressures are intensifying under the weight of new environmental realities that are pushing the boundaries of what the land can sustain. Rising temperatures, prolonged droughts, and decades of water mismanagement are combining to accelerate desertification across large parts of the country, gradually turning already fragile regions into spaces where agriculture becomes unreliable and long-term habitation increasingly uncertain. Rivers that once supported local communities now run dry or flow only seasonally. Lakes shrink year after year, and dust storms, fueled by exposed soil and degraded land, sweep across entire regions, carrying with them not just particles of earth, but the visible signs of ecological strain. What happens to a country when climate stress amplifies what geography has always imposed, when the margins of habitability shrink even further? One of the clearest examples of this shift can be seen in Lake Urmia, located in the northwest, which was once among the largest saltwater lakes in the Middle East, but has dramatically receded over recent decades due to a combination of reduced rainfall, upstream dam construction, and intensive agricultural water use. What remains in many areas is a shrinking body of water surrounded by exposed salt flats, altering local ecosystems and affecting the livelihoods of communities that once depended on the lake. Today, the challenge is changing. Iran now uses around 90% of its renewable water resources. Rivers shrink. Lakes disappear. Can ancient solutions solve modern crises? This transformation is not isolated. It reflects a broader pattern. In rural regions, especially those already vulnerable due to limited resources, the pressure is growing. Farmers face declining yields, water access becomes less predictable, and entire communities are increasingly forced to consider migration as a response to environmental change. As people move toward urban areas in search of stability, the effects of ecological stress begin to reshape social and economic structures as well. Yet, even within this challenge, there are signs of adaptation, not entirely new solutions, but a return to older ones. At the same time, efforts to improve irrigation efficiency, reduce water waste, and rethink how urban and agricultural demands are balanced are becoming part of a broader national conversation about sustainability. In some areas, local initiatives aim to restore vegetation, stabilize soil, and reduce the frequency and intensity of dust storms by rebuilding natural barriers that have been lost over time. Can the ancient water wisdom that once made life possible on Iran's plateau help the country navigate a century shaped by global warming? The answer is still unfolding, because what is happening now is not just an environmental issue, it is a continuation of a much older story, one where survival has always depended on the ability to adapt to limits rather than ignore them. In Iran, the edge of what is possible has never been fixed. It has always shifted, and today that edge is being tested again. Not by the land alone, but by the changing climate of an entire planet. Iran is often described as a single cultural entity, but within its borders exists a far more complex reality, shaped by a wide range of ethnic groups, languages, and regional identities that have developed over centuries of movement, interaction, and adaptation. Across the country live Persians, Azeris, Kurds, Lurs, Arabs, Baluchis, Turkmen, and others, each with their own linguistic traditions, cultural practices, and historical experiences, forming a mosaic that reflects both diversity and continuity at the same time. These groups are not isolated from one another. They have interacted for generations through trade, migration, and shared spaces, creating a layered society where boundaries are often fluid rather than fixed. In places like Tabriz, particularly within its historic bazaar, this interaction becomes visible in everyday life as traders move between Persian and Azeri with ease, shifting languages depending on context, audience, and tradition, reflecting centuries of cultural exchange along routes that were never entirely closed. What makes people identify with a country whose cultures and languages are so varied? Shared ethnicity, shared religion, or something deeper? The answer lies not in uniformity, but in connection. Despite this diversity, there are cultural threads that extend across regions and communities, creating a shared framework that binds people together without erasing their differences. The Persian language serves as a nationwide lingua franca, allowing communication across ethnic lines, while coexisting with regional languages that continue to thrive in local contexts. Festivals such as Nowruz bring people together across cultural and linguistic boundaries, marking the arrival of spring with traditions that are recognized and celebrated by many communities, regardless of background, reinforcing a sense of shared time and collective renewal. At the same time, a rich literary heritage provides another point of unity, with poets like Ferdowsi, Hafez, and Saadi offering a common reference for reflection, ethics, and identity, their works continuing to influence how people think, speak, and understand the world around them. These shared elements do not replace local traditions. They exist alongside them. Regional cuisines, musical styles, clothing, and customs continue to vary widely, giving each area its own character, while still contributing to a broader cultural landscape that feels connected rather than divided. In this way, Iran is less a single uniform identity and more a layered composition where different voices coexist, sometimes blending, sometimes standing apart, but always contributing to a larger whole. In the modern era, this dynamic has taken on new forms. Television, cinema, and digital platforms have expanded the reach of cultural expression, allowing ideas, stories, and perspectives to circulate across the country more rapidly than ever before. At the same time, these mediums reveal generational differences, regional viewpoints, and evolving identities, adding complexity to the cultural conversation rather than simplifying it. The result is a society that is constantly negotiating its own balance between unity and diversity, between tradition and change, between preserving identity and adapting to new realities. This negotiation is not a sign of instability, it is a sign of continuity, Because in Iran, identity has never been static. It has always been shaped by interaction, and it is through that interaction that a sense of shared culture continues to exist, even in the presence of deep diversity. Another key to understanding Iran lies not in its mountains or deserts, but along its southern edges, where land meets water, and the country connects directly to some of the most strategically important maritime routes in the world. At the narrow passage of Strait of Hormuz, Iranian shores face one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth, a corridor through which a significant portion of global oil exports must pass as they move between the Persian Gulf and the open ocean. This is not just a geographic feature, it is a point of global importance where local geography intersects with international economics, energy security, and geopolitical tension. How does living beside one of the world's most critical choke points shape a country's sense of security and identity? It creates a constant awareness of connection and vulnerability at the same time. Because while Iran's interior may feel enclosed and protected by mountains and deserts, its southern coastline opens directly into a global system where movements far beyond its borders can have immediate consequences. Just offshore, this maritime dimension becomes even more visible on Keshem Island, the largest island in the Persian Gulf, where the landscape shifts again into something unexpected. Here, dramatic rock formations rise from the earth, shaped by wind and erosion into natural sculptures, while along the coastline, mangrove forests grow in tidal waters, forming unique ecosystems that support both biodiversity and local livelihoods. These environments are not only visually striking, they represent another layer of Iran's natural heritage, one that contrasts sharply with the arid plateau and high mountain ranges found inland. In recent years, areas like Keshem have also become focal points for ecotourism and conservation efforts, as interest grows in preserving these fragile environments while still allowing people to experience them. But beyond the landscape, life along these coasts and islands follows patterns that are distinct from the interior. Traditions of seafaring, boat building, and fishing have shaped local cultures for generations, creating communities whose identities are tied not to mountains or deserts, but to the rhythms of the sea. Music, language, accents, and daily routines reflect these maritime influences, forming cultural expressions that differ from those of the highlands, while still remaining part of the broader national identity. At the same time, these coastal regions face pressures that mirror those found elsewhere in the country. Tourism brings economic opportunity, but also environmental strain. Industrial projects and resource extraction contribute to development, yet raise concerns about long-term sustainability. Balancing these forces becomes an ongoing challenge as communities and policymakers navigate the tension between growth and preservation. Is Iran best understood as a landlocked plateau with access to the sea, or as a maritime nation protected by mountains? The answer is not fixed. Because Iran is both, a country shaped by internal isolation and external connection. A place where mountains and deserts define the interior, while coastlines and shipping lanes link it to the wider world. And in that balance, between enclosure and openness, another dimension of its identity takes form, one that extends beyond the land itself and into the movement of goods, cultures, and ideas across the sea. Throughout this journey across Iran, one theme keeps returning, not as a contradiction but as a constant presence: the tension and at the same time the dialogue between modernity and tradition, between what is inherited and what is being created. In cities like Tehran and other major urban centers, this dynamic becomes especially visible where internet infrastructure, universities, and research institutions support high-tech industries, ranging from advanced engineering to digital platforms, and in some sectors, even defense-related technologies, placing Iran within a global landscape of scientific and technological development. At the same time, daily life continues to be shaped by patterns that reach back centuries, where religious practices, family expectations, and social norms influence decisions about education, relationships, careers, and public behavior, creating a framework that does not disappear simply because new technologies or ideas emerge. For many Iranians, the challenge is not to reject one side in favor of the other, but to bring both together into a coherent way of living, where tradition provides continuity and meaning, while modernity offers tools, opportunities, and new forms of expression. Can a society be both deeply traditional and scientifically ambitious, or must one eventually give way to the other? In practice, the answer unfolds in everyday life. In universities, students might share verses from classical poets on social media, drawing on a literary heritage that still resonates, even as they work on projects involving robotics, software development, or complex engineering systems that connect them to global technological trends. In homes, satellite dishes, smartphones, and digital platforms exist alongside long-established rituals of respect between generations, where family structures, conversations, and expectations continue to reflect values shaped over time. This coexistence, however, is not always smooth or easily resolved. Debates over social freedoms, public behavior, dress codes, and political life often reflect deeper questions about identity, about which aspects of the past should be preserved and which should evolve, and about how a society defines itself in a rapidly changing world. These discussions are not simply disagreements. They are part of a broader process, a negotiation that takes place across generations, across regions, and across different parts of society. When we look at Iran, do we see a country caught between two eras, or a place where a new balance between heritage and innovation is being tested? Perhaps it is both, because what appears as tension from the outside can also be understood as movement from within, a sign that culture is not fixed, but continuously reshaped by those who live within it. In Iran, modernity and tradition do not exist as separate paths. They intersect. They influence each other. And through that interaction, they create something that is still evolving, still being defined, and still open to change. From the peaks of the Alborz to the heat of the Lut, Iran is not just a country, it is a system, a place where humanity has tested, for thousands of years, how to live at the edge of what is possible. And today, as climate change reshapes our world, as water becomes more uncertain, as environments grow more extreme, Iran begins to look less like an exception and more like a preview, a laboratory, a question. Because in the end, this land asks something much bigger than itself. When the world becomes harder to live in, will we collapse? Or will we adapt, like this land has always forced people to do?